Hi, I'm Olivia.
And I'm Amy.
And this is a Girls in Marketing podcast. Every week, we release a new episode that you won't want to miss. Our guests are industry experts with amazing experiences, so you'll always come away with new nuggets of wisdom. From educational and inspiring episodes covering the latest in digital marketing to casual and fun chats with the Girls in Marketing team, unpacking marketing myths and trends, we've got it all.
Here at Girls in Marketing, we're all about empowering and supporting women to be the best marketers they can be through our online learning platform and community. Check out our resources and membership to get involved, as we'd love to welcome you to our inner circle.
Right, let's dive into an episode together. Hello and welcome back to the Girls in Marketing podcast. We're back with another snack episode, and today we're talking all about AI. AI is a bit of a scary one for a lot of people, but the AI market in general is going to be worth like $2 trillion by 2030. Don't quote me on the facts, anyone. But it's going to be worth a lot of money, and it currently is right now. Mm-hmm. And I think it plays a massive part in a lot of marketers' positions, a lot of marketers' roles. I've seen a lot of things within our community recently. Is AI going to take my job? Like, I'm not sure. Should I be using AI? Like, what is everything? So I thought today's episode, we could talk all about AI, kind of just give people a bit of reassurance around it, because it's not, well, at the moment, it's not going to take over the world. Again, don't quote me on the facts.
That's the thing, isn't it? I feel like this is one of those episodes that we could record and then listen back in however long and be like, okay, what did we know?
As of currently, right now, I think AI is a really good tool for a lot of marketers. I think it's like just over 60% of marketers are currently using AI in some aspect, in some kind of way. There's so many different tools out there. The market is growing massively from a business perspective, and also just from like a marketing perspective as well. And I think it's somewhat a scary topic for marketers, because they think that, because I can kind of automate parts of my role, that automatically means that I don't have a job anymore. What are your thoughts on AI and everything about it?
I think like the fear and the kind of anxiety around AI is very, very valid, because I think the way that it's kind of portrayed in the media and just talked about in general is kind of a bit scary. Like, it's going to take your job, or like it's going to replace these functions, or you won't need to do this anymore. But I think putting that positive spin on it, thinking, I don't have to do that thing that takes me about 3 hours a month, and it's going to do it in the click of a button. I think you can only see that as a positive thing. It might be scary initially, and then just see that as like, I've got 3 hours more to do this thing that AI can't do, because that needs my personal perspective. Because AI can only do so much, like we say, right now. Hopefully it can't replace us in general. But yeah, it can only do so much right now. So I've seen tons of things, and I use AI personally. I don't know about you guys, but I use the Iconosquare caption generator, which it doesn't write all the captions for me. It doesn't write them perfectly, and it probably never will. It learns your tone of voice. It kind of gives you ideas, gives you prompts, but there will always be that you always want to add your personal perspective, don't you, into stuff. And yeah, it's a really good idea generator, but it might be perfect in future, it might not be, but I think it's just always a good starting place, and always a good time saver as well for a lot of social media managers. So that's always my top recommendation for caption generating AI tools.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree that it can be used really effectively by marketers, particularly in the area of content creation, can't it? I wouldn't necessarily advocate for using it to create whole pieces of content, especially not without some serious kind of reviewing, redrafting, editing, tweaking, that type of thing. But it can form a starting point and a base for content. It can create idea generation, ideas for blog titles to write about, or whatever it might be. But like you say, it's, as of right now, AI doesn't have an opinion. You know what I mean? Like, it can go away and take a load of facts from somewhere, and it can write a load of stuff, but it's never going to be able to provide the opinion or kind of the perspective that you have as an individual. Same goes for the tone of voice and stuff like that, particularly on social media. I think that the way that a brand writes and comes across is is quite specific if you get your tone of voice right. And I don't know that obviously AI can learn that and it can kind of get better at it. But I think that there's always going to need to be that element of human involvement in really making it like sound right as a brand. But I do think there's a lot of scope for it to take away some of those more tedious tasks and just help as like an aid. I know a lot more kind of like you mentioned Iconosquare have that feature. I know a lot of kind of technology brands are introducing similar types of features to like kind of augment what they already offer to help your content creation just be a little bit more seamless, a little bit easier.
Yeah. And I don't think it's something that, you know, I totally understand from an outsider perspective and just getting started, it can seem quite scary, but it's actually really funny to give AI some context. So if you think of like ChatGPT, for example, give it some context and see what it comes out with. Sometimes it'll be really good. You know, for example, when we've been thinking of snack episodes before and we thought, oh, like what can we do snack episodes on? I went in to ChatGPT. I've said, you know, we run this podcast and we're thinking of ideas, but there's only so much context that you can give to it because I understand that, you know, we record it as a team, it's quite informal and you can kind of say that, but sometimes it doesn't totally understand the context. So then some of the ideas it came back with was like, the world of marketing and like tips to improve your marketing strategy. And it's kind of like, that's not really the vibe. So I think as well, it will come with time. AI will only get better, which I think is what scares people a lot. But I almost kind of feel like it's good for that idea generation because there was a few aspects, for example, when I put in about, you know, snack episode titles, that come back and I thought, oh, actually, that's a good topic. Not necessarily that title specifically, but that's a good topic to talk about. You know, what can we do? And I think from that idea generation perspective, it is really good. And I think another thing is any new technology that comes in has always been scary. Like when social media started rising and there was like I was speaking to someone the other day who was around when kind of Instagram first started, and as a marketer then that was scary, but now it's just normal. So I think it's about not necessarily stressing yourself out and jumping on trends when they happen, but almost kind of like just acknowledging that this is a new wave of the internet and how can I as a marketer really make use of that in a good way and not seeing it as a negative.
Yeah. I agree. And just to kind of add to that, like I feel like I'm similar in that, you know, working in marketing now, I've seen platforms that previously I had only ever really known as being kind of quite informal, friend, like Facebook, for example. It was very much a platform where you added your friends and your family and just shared updates of what you were having for your lunch or something, whatever. And then became a platform that was monetized by brands and then became a place to advertise. And it was like a huge marketing channel. And it was like, oh, that's scary because how do I go from using it as Facebook, the place where you connect with your friends, to using it as a brand? So changes are always quite scary. And yeah, like you're right, AI is just one of those things. I think that the thing that's scary about AI is that it does feel at the moment that it is sort of quite limitless and we just don't know what the bounds of what it will be able to do are. I'll be honest, as an individual, I would say from my own personal perspective, it scares me less from my position as a marketer and just more generally as like what AI will become. Yeah. And like the kind of the power of AI and what the, you know, what that can turn into. I don't necessarily feel threatened in terms of a job because like I say, I think that what you can't underestimate is the value of not only your own opinions and perspectives, but like your life experiences and everything that you've been through in your life and all of the skills and things that you've learned along the way. Yeah, okay, AI is great and it can churn out hundreds of words on particular topics in minutes, but it doesn't have the same nuanced experiences that you've lived and that they're always going to be so valuable in your role. So I definitely don't think people should worry too much about kind of being replaced entirely by AI. I just don't think certainly not right now it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think it's that thing of humans want to buy from humans, don't they? So like AI, it might learn it like we say, but it's going to be very hard to learn how like to speak exactly like a human, exactly like how a brand wants to position themselves. And yeah, at the end of the day, humans buy from humans, and they want that. They want to hear people's life experiences. They want to hear people's career journeys. They want to hear, like, AI can only provide so many different I don't know, situations or something, can't it? So no, I think you are right in the in fact of it can only do so many things. But
and I think again there's also that thing of AI has got so much that it can take information from to create content. So you might ask it to write an article on something and it can do that. But then you've also got to think about kind of what risks are associated with putting those sorts of tasks in the hands of AI and completely taking a step back from it, which is why I said, there's always, for me, going to be that element of really like proofreading, editing, drafting, because, there's a risk. I'm sure this happened at some point. It was a while back now. I'm sure it was something to do with, maybe it was like an AI learning thing maybe it was from Twitter or something. And it was picking up a lot of phrases and terminology that actually was like, I think maybe like racist and homophobic and stuff like that. But it didn't necessarily understand that was something negative. It was just commonly used language, and then was regurgitating that sort of stuff. So it's kind of like, we've got to be aware of like where things are actually taking their information from, what they're learning from, and not just kind of thinking, oh yeah, AI is dead clever, it can do all this stuff, and just going, yeah, just publish, because there's always that kind of room for needing human eyes to look over things and ensure that, and even stuff like spelling, like, the way that things are phrased, or whether things are spelled in like an American English way or an English way, and things like that, like, and sticking to your brand guidelines and stuff like that. Like, there's always going to be a need for it from my perspective.
Yeah. What I seen recently was a tool, which it's really cool. And I think from the perspective of, if you are a marketer who does a lot of research is something that I think is a kind of task that AI can actually speed up, because think about the amount of times that, you Google something and you trail through like so many articles and you don't really understand it. But there's this tool, and I can't remember what it's called, but essentially you could put in this massive document and AI will just like summarize it in a few paragraphs, which is quite cool. Because I always think like, and that for me, I mean, aside from marketing, that would have been a lifesaver at uni, like to completely summarize like full papers in anything. Would have loved that personally. But I think if you are doing research, or you do a lot of research, putting it into tools like that, sorry, I don't know what it's called, but maybe I'll find it, and you put it in and it kind of gives you like a summary. I think that's really good, because obviously from an idea and a content creation, it's great, but there's so many other uses for it as well.
Yeah.
Even the kind of the new Adobe feature that came out recently, where you can like cut out basically any part of a photo and replace it, or make the photo bigger if you want, or anything like that. It's amazing that these things exist, and they're more than available for us to use. I think the media in particular, as you said, Kira, I think they've really put this like fear into people, saying, these are the things that are going to happen. But think about the positives. Think about all the things that are coming out that can have a massive and huge positive impact on your job and your life in general.
Yeah, and I think it's hard not to get caught up in, because typically older generations are a bit more opposed to like AI and stuff. Like, you go to the supermarket and you see that Tesco is literally now like filled with like self-service machines, and I think that's when the older generation are like, that's scary. I prefer that, because I'm like, I don't have to awkwardly talk to a cashier then. But yeah, I feel like that's when you think, oh, that's putting people out of a job, because it is putting people out of a job. And then it's just the job market kind of comes back round, doesn't it? And then people are in other jobs, and people are in like, it's just like a cycle, isn't it? So yeah, I think for marketers, it's a lot less scary than it is for like cashiers or like people like that. Yeah.
But the thing is, though, even with that being said, if you compare this to like self-checkouts and stuff, it hasn't taken the job, because the other day I was in Tesco and there was like 3 people looking after people on the self-checkouts. So even though for example, if you relate it to that, even though, okay, maybe that used to be, that probably would have only ever been 6 cashiers or 3 cashiers on you know, in normal kind of rows, but they've still got a job, they've still got to look after people in that kind of self-checkout area. Same with AI, like, you know, as we've said this episode, as much as it's good and it serves its purpose, there's always going to be a need for that human interaction, whether it's editing, whether it's, you know, proofreading, whether it's anything, because, you know, sometimes even though there's these tools that seem amazing, it might get it wrong, or, you know, it's not perfect, and you can't. And the thing is, on the flip side, is you can't rely on it. So as much as we should be using it and trying to, you know, be innovative with it, don't rely on it too much, because you know, if you were to rely on it too much, then potentially it's not going to go the way you want it to. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. And I think that, like we've said, I think marketing, there are so many ways that you can use it to your advantage. I think that some of the scarier kind of ways that I've seen it used, or the things that you often see in the media that do kind of scare people, are the things like more so what AI is learning about us, which obviously for marketers can be used to your advantage. You know, that sort of information can be great for marketers, you know, for kind of segmentation and personalization and stuff like that. It can be really used to marketers' advantage. I just think obviously we have to be careful if that is the kind of route we're going to go down in terms of using AI, and using not just to create content, but using like the findings of AI in our marketing, that we're making sure that anything we are doing with it, like that it's still kind of upholding GDPR standards and things like that. Those are things I think as marketers that we need to consider. And like I mentioned earlier, kind of any biases that may come out. I know there was something a while ago, not necessarily relating to marketing. I can't remember which firm it was. It was a big global company. I cannot remember for the life of me who it was. But I know that they used like an AI kind of tool within like their recruitment process. And it was a tech company, so predominantly had been kind of dominated by men. And so it was something along the lines of kind of any applications by women were almost penalised, because the AI tool that they were using had kind of learned that more men had been in those positions previously, and therefore automatically men must just be preferred for those roles. And so although they tried to teach it to help with this recruitment process, it was learning something that was inherently wrong, but that was just kind of on the information it was given, that was what it was assuming. So I think there are like a lot of biases and things that we need to make sure that we're conscious of as well as marketers, if we do want to use it in our work. But yeah, I think long and short of it, like, I don't think anyone should be too scared about losing their jobs right now, and there's definitely a lot of opportunities to use it in really positive ways and actually help our jobs as marketers.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely think the key takeaway from this episode is that, don't shy away from it, and do as much research as you can on it, and
have fun with it as well.
Get involved with it, and don't shy away from it.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of the Girls in Marketing podcast. We love hearing from you, so if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review to let us know your thoughts, and make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button to be the first to hear when our new episodes released. Don't forget, if you want to get involved with Girls in Marketing, check out our membership to join our incredible community of marketers. Think marketing resources, courses, webinars, and more. Find out more on our website, or drop us a message on any of our social channels @Girls in Marketing.